It only took a week for the results of the test to come through. Izuku awoke to Toph and Melissa banging on his door with the envelopes in their hands. The trio walked to Izuku's living room and placed the packages around the table as they sat down. Izuku's mother made places for them, as they did. She too, watching to see the culmination of her boy's dream. Melissa and Izuku stared at each other with worry-filled eyes. They had both done well, but both felt like it probably wasn't enough. Melissa had only trashed a few three-pointers, or lower, and she was stuck saving people when the zero-pointer showed up. Izuku passed out at the end of the test. Both felt that, deep down, maybe it would be better if they just didn't open it. And of course, Toph opened hers without a moment of hesitation. A projection of All Might appeared, puffing his chest out as Izuku and Melissa dropped their jaws at what the implications of this were. All Might would be a teacher at UA. "Greetings, young Beifong." "Oh, it's him again," Toph replied, in her usual blunt manner, to the shock of the duo around her. Seeing their confusion, she scoffed. "We've seen him every day for like the last 3 months. You still expect me to freak out?" The footage changed to footage of Toph crushing mountains of opponents with the large slabs of rocks that she wielded. They never really stood a chance. In the end, she was standing atop a powerful mountain of steel rubble. "You were one of the most powerful students we could register, not to mention the fact that you took down our mechanical menaces with tremendous efficiency. You received 73 points for your tremendous bout, easily enough to get you into UA." As Izuku hugged Toph at the news, Melissa shrieked in excitement. Of course she got in. She never had any doubt about it. Never. Well, now that Toph thought about it, maybe a little. Especially after her encounter with the exams. But now she got confirmation that she would be going to the top school in the country. Damn. She actually couldn't hide the smile on her face. Of course, that isn't everything. There was another component to the exam. One we kept hidden from all other applicants. Rescue points. Due to your rescue of another student trapped by mechanical menaces, you achieved 24 rescue points, putting your total at a staggering 97. Congratulations, young Beifong. You've officially placed first in the general entrance exams. Welcome to your Hero Academy. The hologram shut off, the envelope closing. Wow, first, huh? I'm gonna enjoy rubbing Dynamite Boy's nose in that. Toph smirked. Izuku hugged her harder. A lot of the time, she found his jittery nature annoying. This wasn't one of those times. "So, are you gonna open yours or am I gonna open it for you?" Toph asked. Toph patted Izuku's shoulder. He slowly nodded, swallowing hard as he took out the package and shakily opened it. The same image popped out. "Hello, young Midoriya. I am here as a hologram," All Might shouted, making Toph pinch the bridge of her nose. "You performed admirably in the entrance exams. I know that you were working on incorporating your abilities with your fighting style, and it showed true promise. You scored 25 villain points in the exam. You likely could have gone even more, had you used more of your true power." All Might spoke with a mix of pride and admonishment, making Melissa chuckle. "Come on, really?" Izuku asked his pen pal. "He's right," Melissa replied. "You managed to get over 20 damn points and you're still holding yourself back. If you just..." Melissa stopped herself as she watched Izuku's face get slightly downcast. "Never mind, I'm sure you did fine." "This alone would be enough to merit serious consideration for entry into UA, but of course, there is another element to this exam." The image of All Might faded and formed into Izuku, a duplicate of the Incredible Hulk tinted in green, wrapped around him like a mech, crushing a zero-pointer like it was nothing. Melissa stared in awe at the beast. She knew Izuku was capable, but... "You sacrificed any more villain points that could be gained, and you selflessly threw your body into danger, even though the strain proved too much for you. For this true act of heroism, we have awarded you 60 rescue points, bringing your total point value to 85, easily placing you in second place in the entrance exams. Congratulations, young Midoriya, and welcome to your Hero Academy." Izuku couldn't help it. He broke down. Tears flowed down his eyes as he realized the full enormity of what had just happened to him. He'd done it. He had taken the first step toward ascending to the level of his heroes, to being a hero himself. His trembling hands frantically tried to stem the flow of tears. His mother hugged him, repeating, "You did it," in her boy's ears, as Toph grabbed him by his shoulder and smiled. "Let it out, crybaby. You earned this one," he said. Melissa watched them with mixed emotions. She couldn't be more proud of the people in her life. But her and Izuku had been writing to each other about this moment since they were just a pair of quirkless kids from the Stark internship. Back in those days, there were really only a few of them that geeked out over the same stuff. It was why she, Izuku, and Miles had become this trio of friends that barreled through every single one of Stark Training's tests. But at the end of the day, not even Miles really cared about being a hero. The two of them were the only ones who bonded over this crazy dream of theirs, of being heroes without powers, following in the footsteps of people like Iron Man or the Green Arrow. Now Izuku had achieved it, at least the hero part. But what if she hadn't? Melissa grabbed the edge of her parcel and began to open it, only for Izuku to grab the other edge and begin opening it as well, and then Toph. Melissa smiled and mouthed a thank you to her former training partners as they brought the results to light together. Once more, All Might flickered to life, this time with a deeper look on his face. He still wore the same smile, but something in his eyes showed that he was truly emotional about what he was going to say next. Young Shield, you showed a true mastery over your quirk. Using it, you were able to rack up 20 villain points as you flung yourself around the city. You have truly improved greatly from the day I met you. Melissa watched the footage of herself wielding One for All, clutching her hands on the leather of the chair so hard that her hands nearly turned white from the pressure. But, as I'm sure you know, there is more to this story. More images played of Melissa, dashing underneath the falling scaffolding, saving the people who had nearly gotten crushed, of her ducking under the swing of a three-pointer, ignoring it entirely to tackle a student out of the way of another attack. You have made me proud, young Shield. All of you have. Your clear heart that desired nothing more than to help others has earned you over 50 rescue points, placing you in 4th place overall. Congratulations, and welcome to your Hero Academy. The smile that beamed from All Might's face could light up the sun, and Melissa collapsed. Now it was her turn to break down in tears of joy. Izuku had woken up early on his first day of UA, and to his surprise, so had Toph. This led to the two of them getting a head start on their journey. Their entire train ride, Izuku had been smiling. He could even swear he saw one smile on Toph, even though she had been complaining about her itchy suit. She'd never been one for uniforms, after all. He took in the enormity of the building in front of him when they had finally arrived. It was easily around, twice the size of Tony Stark's mansion? Of the place where he announced to the world that he was Iron Man? Honestly, Izuku couldn't help but be excited by the comparison of one hero's mansion to another hero's school. If he was lucky, he might end up like Tony Stark one day, a hero, a member of the Justice League, a beacon. He got so excited by the comparison that he took Toph's hand and started leading her inside quickly, almost sprinting towards his future. Soon, they were in the door that they would be spending the next year of their lives in, or at least in front of it, the door to Class 1A. It was easily 8 feet tall. Izuku took a deep breath, pushing the door open, and he was met with a rather predictable sight. Katsuki Bakugo, his feet up on the desk, being screamed at by another student, a blue-haired boy, the same blue-haired boy that had chewed Izuku out during the entrance exam. Meanwhile, in the back of the room, he spotted 3 other students, all non-Japanese from the looks of things. The first he spotted was Laura, and she was just sitting still, watching things go by as she tapped her fingers to her desk. She didn't know why her father had decided to take a job on the other side of the world, but if it was important, of course she was going to be here. Didn't really mean she had to like it, though. And so far, she didn't. This place was way more boring than Xavier's. Riri was sketching in her notebook beside Laura. She was thinking, Tony was probably right. Doing something like this before the big leagues, get her more up to speed. But she still didn't like having to be cooped up in a hero school like this. Not after being on the Titans. Not that that experience really went great for her. You need to start from the ground up, kid. Just rebuild your confidence, and everything else will go better. That was what he said to her. It was a lot easier said than done. Danielle was the only one of them that actually seemed to be having any fun, talking to the people around her. Whoa, your skin's unbreakable, huh? Well, that sounds familiar. Ejiro Kirishima slammed his fist into his chest, a resounding thump emanating through the room. Danielle did the same, and the same thump happened. Your skin didn't even change. Whoa, so it's just always like that? Manly. Thanks? Danielle said, barely suppressing a laugh. Yeah, she was pretty sure she was gonna like it here. These seemed like her kind of people. Izuku had almost immediately taken note of the 3 of them, as well as the dark-haired girl and this red and white-haired boy. These people were the ones who left the building during the entrance exams, and he didn't see any of them in the chamber with him. All Might did say something about students getting in based on recommendation. He just thought they'd be extremely famous or something. But he hadn't recognized any of these people. The second Izuku had actually entered the room, Bakugo's eyes zeroed in on the boy's face. Then on Topps, who despite not being able to see, was the master of giving icy glares. "Hey, glasses. You wanna bug someone? How about the one not wearing shoes?" Bakugo smirked, giving a glance at Toph. As predictably, the boy did march up to them. "Hey, why aren't you following the school's proper uniform guidelines?" The boy spoke, clearly attempting to restrain himself, for which he caught the attention of everyone who had just seen him go on a rant for half an hour. Especially the attention of Bakugo, who was, unfortunately, the victim of that rant. I have permission," Toph responded, with a yawn. "It's kind of a necessity." "I see. In that case, I hold no issues with it." The boy bowed at Toph. "Besides, I owe you an apology, and you as well." He turned to Izuku. "You were right. I treated you with disrespect, especially since both of you saw something further in the entrance exam. You are truly superior students to myself." He bowed. I didn't, Izuku began. "What's your name?" Toph asked. The boy stood up promptly, as though he were facing a military officer. "My name is Tenya Ida," he responded quickly. "I didn't help anybody because of any secret mission, Ida. I did it because I wanted to, so you don't need to kiss my ass for it," Toph responded, pushing past him to her seat. "Oh, I see," Ida responded, surprised. Sorry about that. She's a little blunt," Izuku said, scratching the back of his head. "No, it's quite alright. I owed you both an apology anyway. My behavior was inexcusable." He reached a hand out to Izuku, who shook it. "No problem, Ida. Everything was a little stressful the other day, so let's just call it even, okay?" Izuku smiled. "Agreed." "Oh, are we making friends?" Melissa's voice came over. Izuku showed her. Izuku smiled as he turned to her. Before he could speak, though, another voice came from the back of the class. A tired and very cranky one. "You aren't here to make friends." A baggy-eyed, caterpillar-like figure walked into the room. Izuku could only assume it was his teacher. He only needed to lock eyes with him for a second to know who he was, so he scurried to one of the open seats. "That kid has the right idea. The rest of you, sit the hell down," the man said, stifling a yawn. "Oh yeah? And who the hell are you supposed to be?" Bakugo spat, slowly sitting upright. "I'm your homeroom teacher, Shoto Aizawa," he responded, to the class's shock. "Oh, I know you. You're a racerhead, right? My dad said he met you a while back," Laura responded. "He also said he doesn't like you very much." "Oh, yeah, our new teacher. Trust me, kid, the feeling's mutual," he grumbled as the remaining strangers found their way to their seats. "If you're here to chat and make friends, then you can get out now. This course is about a lot more than that. We're here to bring about the next generation of Earth's protectors." He turned on a projector, showing an image that everybody recognized almost immediately. "The Demon King Piccolo. There was a time when he was the greatest threat that the world had ever known. He might have even given All Might a run for his money in his prime. Over the last few decades, though, threats have gotten a whole lot worse." He clicked the projector again. "Doomsday. Cell. Majin Buu. And, of course," he clicked the projector one final time, drawing the looks of fear and frustration in the eyes of the students. "Magneto. 30 years ago, we were still trying to train local heroes, people who could make everyday life better. We still seek to bring that out in the next generation, but at the end of the day, what the world needs are a new breed, people who are capable of finishing the big fights. What we want out of you all is the next Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Son Goku. I know that they're sitting in this class, and I'll do what's necessary to bring them out, even if you all hate me for it, and I fully expect you to." Aizawa narrowed his eyes, sending a sharp sense of panic through the spines of the students. He tossed a large duffel bag on the ground that sank to the floor with a thud. "Those are your uniforms. You have about 20 minutes to get dressed and meet me outside." Excuse me, sir, but what about orientation?" Ida asked. "In life, there aren't any orientations, so suck it up." He began to leave before stopping himself. "Williams." The girl on the back of the room perked up. Yes, sir." "Bring your other suit. Aizawa responded as he disappeared behind the door. The girl nodded as she reached into her bag and pulled out a smaller one, a backpack made of steel. The students gathered in a grass field outside UA, the back of the building towering over them, providing a modicum of shade on a day that seemed hellish for a few reasons. Aizawa stood in front of his 20 students. Today, we're going to be running a physical, just like the ones you all ran back in middle school. Only this one's going to be a bit different. Bakugo. Said spiky-haired teen walked up to Aizawa, eyeing the teacher up and down. You may have not gotten the highest entrance exam score. Bakugo scoffed at the reminder, his fingers tightening into a fist. But you did get the highest villain score. What was your furthest softball throw in grade school? Bakugo spat. Around 60 meters. Great, now try it again, but this time, use your quirk. Bakugo's face grew into a wicked smile that took up nearly half of his visage as he took the ball. He eyed the others. The boy with the red and white hair, the girl with the steel backpack, Itsuku, Toph. 2 people who weren't even supposed to be in the room, let alone do better than him on the entrance exams. He got angry just thinking about it. He pictured their faces on the ball, and what he would do to them. Die! An explosion erupted into a fantastical shockwave that burst out from the epicenter. Aizawa took out a measuring device that beeped after Katsuki's ball was no longer in view. 780 meters? Kirishima shouted, dumbfounded. Gotta admit, not bad, Sparky, Toph admitted. Not bad. I'd like to see you top it, Badger Girl, Bakugo smirked, as he scowled at said student. You and Deku are toast. I'll kick your asses right out of here. Incredible. So we're actually getting to use our quirks in an assessment? Momo Yaoyorozu spoke. That sounds like fun, Ochako added. Oh, sounds like fun, does it? Aizawa responded. Well, last-placed students in this exam get expelled. How fun does it sound now? As the students protested, Izuku pondered what this meant. As much as Izuku hated to admit it, it made a sort of sick sense. Heroes have to face situations where they might die every day, so this was kind of like a miniature version of that. A little death, so they knew what to do when they faced a real one. But that didn't make it any more fair. Almost like she was reading his mind, Ochako echoed his thoughts. But that's not fair. Fair, huh? 20% of the world are born with supernatural abilities. Is that fair to the other 80? Aizawa asked, drawing the attention of Izuku and Melissa specifically. Is it fair that our world has been under attack by no less than 5 invasion attempts in the last 3 centuries? Nothing about life is fair. It's the job of heroes like you to make up for that difference. You want to be here? Then go beyond. Plus Ultra. Izuku met eyes with Aizawa, nodding at his words, drawing a slight surprise from him, judging from his widened eyes. If this was his first real test, Izuku would go all out. It was time to show Eraserhead just what he was made of. The class walked up to the 50-meter dash first. Izuku got paired up with the girl from the entrance exams, Riri Williams. As Aizawa grabbed his stopwatch, he stared at Riri. Put on the suit. Riri nervously nodded as she looked around to her fellow classmates, tapping the central button on her steel satchel. The bag itself unraveled into several thousand steel plates. The plates themselves, a mixture of red, black, and yellow respectively, began sliding to fit her figure. When it was done, she was in a faceplate very reminiscent of a certain billionaire's. The final faceplate slid down. The holes where her eyes were glowed a soft blue. The hell's that? Bakugo gritted his teeth. We're out here with our quirks and she's out here dressed like Stark? As much as I'd hate to agree with this uncouth individual, I do. Why doesn't she just use her quirk as well? Ida asked. Riri felt the eyes of the entire class fall on her as she took deep, uncomfortable breaths in her mask. Starting from an easier place. That was what Tony had said. She had been so caught up in trying to make sure she was ready for this that she half forgot she was in a country where every person was basically an X-Man. I'm not a mutant, Riri responded, a bit shakily, to the stunned silence of the entire class. Izuku just stared at this girl with awe. She was what he was meant to be, the first quirkless student in UA's history. And for the record, I built this suit, with my own intelligence. It's just as much a part of me as your engines are of you. She stared at Ida, who, to her surprise, actually nodded. Bakugo, on the other hand, he looked like he was about to lose his mind. Oh great, a quirkless runt. Oh, so that's how it's gonna be? You're welcome to test the runt part at your earliest convenience. Riri bit back, making Bakugo's eyes narrow. Shut it, shellhead. Make me, Babam. Enough. That's not what we're here for. Aizawa turned to his students. Williams has the highest registered intelligence of anyone her age worldwide. That's what she used to make her tools. As far as I'm concerned, they're a valid use of her powers. He glared at the students who still seemed to be silent. That is, until one finally spoke up. Manly! The redhead, Izuro Kirishima, spoke up. Building your own powers? Wish I could do that. Intelligence? Yes, that's quite a versatile skill. A force to be reckoned with. Momo Yaoyorozu added on. With that small amount of encouragement, Riri's breath managed to steady as she got into her ready stance, nodding at Izuku. Aizawa lifted a starting pistol as he stared at his two students. Alright then. Ready. Set. As Aizawa spoke, Izuku thought. The girl's suit was clearly modeled after Iron Man. With how well designed it looked, he wouldn't be surprised if it was Stark Tech. Which meant maybe, just maybe, she was part of the same internship program that he was. Just a more advanced section. If that was it, it was like he was going to be racing against Iron Man himself, and he knew he'd lose that race. He needed speed. Blinking through his mind, he searched for something, anything that would get him from point A to point B as quickly as possible. Go. Riri's suit glowed with a pulsing blue aura as she fired her repulsor blast directly behind her at full power. She was just a blur by the time she managed to cross the finish line. Unfortunately, she couldn't exactly stop, and she smashed into the wall behind her. By the time she'd begun to pick herself out of the wall, the rubble cascading around her, Izuku had actually managed to make it about halfway across. He had created a set of dual grappling hooks, modeled after the ones that Batman had used, but with his pressurized jets designed to reel him in faster, partially inspired by Iron Man and now Riri's repulsors. He did manage to move faster than he did before. Unfortunately, he wasn't even close to Riri's speed. Midoriya, your time is 4.15 seconds. Williams, you're at 1.39. Riri gave a weak thumbs up as she dusted herself off. Thankfully, the armor was designed to take a hell of a beating, so she remained uninjured. Izuku, meanwhile, was already trying to piece together how he could break his limits and go even faster. Maybe using his ring to make a motorcycle would be more appropriate next time. Ida simply stared at Riri. His desire one day was to be as fast as the Flash himself. However, seeing someone this much faster than him had already proven how far he had to go. The first hour on his first day of school, and his confidence was already shot. That didn't mean he was going to give up. His dream of one day being the world's fastest man was still within his reach. It had just gotten much, much, much farther away. Alright, next up, Melissa Shield, Danielle Cage. Get to the starting line. Melissa stared at the space ahead before looking to her competition. The bronze-skinned girl stared ahead with eyes of steely determination. As she got into her ready stance, Melissa could swear that she saw the ground cracking underneath Danielle's palms. She has super strength? Wait, Cage, he thought as Aizawa counted down. By the time he had gotten to the set and ready, set, go, she had put two and two together, the thought making her freeze in place. Cage, like that Cage? I'm going up against... Go. Aizawa spoke as the ground erupted. The boom of dust knocked Melissa flat on her back. She lifted her head up just in time to watch Danielle, who was now airborne, and she looked to her left to see the epic imprint of Danielle's shoes on the ground where she used to be. She finished the thought that had raced through her mind. She's Luke Cage's kid? Melissa shook off her initial surprise, and she forced herself to launch into full cowling. Her foot hit the dirt just as Danielle landed on the other side, with her finishing a few moments after. She stared at the girl, wide-eyed, as Danielle stared right back at her. At the moment, Melissa wasn't able to string a single sentence together, though thankfully, Danielle did it for her. I'm really sorry about that, are you okay? Sometimes my strength spikes all out of control when I get serious, and... Danielle asked, offering a hand to Melissa. No, yeah, I'm totally fine, I'm just... Isn't your dad... aren't your parents... Melissa said, stumbling out her words. Danielle grinned widely as she nodded, making Melissa feel like she was gonna pass out. A legacy hero, and a strong one at that. Luke Cage. He was one of the heaviest of heavy hitters. And his wife, Jessica Jones? She was supposedly even stronger. Not to mention that Cage was unbreakable. If their powers combined? Melissa didn't even want to think about it, but it was right in front of her. Cage, your time is 4 seconds exactly. Gio, you're at 6.53. Melissa bashed her head in her hands at Aizawa's words. She couldn't afford to get distracted, especially not now. As she moved along with the other students, she was already formulating a strategy. She was in her head, like the others probably were, during her dash. And with her future on the line, that wasn't a mistake she was likely to repeat. Unfortunately, the other students didn't learn from her mistake, almost every single one of them fumbling on the dash until the last two. Top Bei Fong, Laura Kinney, you're the last up. Sir, yes sir. Toph gave a faux salute as she lined up to the starting line. She felt her opponent walk next to her. She felt different than Toph had expected. Heavier. The girl was carrying easily about 20 to 30 pounds just in her hands alone, like she was concealing something under her skin. Go. Toph didn't waste any time. The second Aizawa spoke, she had launched a mound of earth underneath her and rode it to the end. The crazy thing, though, was the girl she was racing was only slightly behind her. She wasn't even using any powers. Aizawa clicked his stopwatch. Bei Fong, 3 seconds. Kinney, 3.2 seconds. Second and third in the class. Not bad. The rest of the test went fine for the trio of friends. When the grip strength test came up, Izuku created a construct of Iron Man gauntlets, taking inspiration from Riri Williams, who had completely crushed her machine. His score came out at around 400 kilograms. Toph's, on the other hand, came out at about 20 after she created her own stone gauntlet and used her bending to push down the machine as hard as she could. Melissa, on the other hand, had managed about 200 before she finally hit her limit with One for All. When the long jump came, Danielle Cage had managed to clear the sandbox by 3 times its length, stunning almost everybody. Izuku created a zipline and simply glided over the sandbox entirely. Toph had simply launched herself off of an earth platform and managed to clear the box perfectly. And Melissa landed well within the box, unfortunately. Finally, they had moved on to the ball throw. Aizawa passed the ball to Toph and made it clear that she was not to leave her circle. Toph simply smiled as she threw the ball in the air, shifting her foot, as she brought a giant stone pillar out of the ground, cracking the ball in the air at incredible speed. A shockwave boomed out, emanating through the area, and when all was said and done, Aizawa lifted the measuring device up to his students. 400 meters. Not bad, but still not enough for first. Aizawa responded. Toph shrugged nonchalantly as she moved to the back of the crowd, pushing Izuku forward. Midoriya, how much control do you have over that ring of yours? What do you mean? Izuku asked, eyeing his teacher up and down, searching for any motive to his questioning. Your performance today. It wasn't bad, not remotely, but I think we both know what you're capable of. I saw the tape of your entrance exams. He narrowed his eyes at the now sweating Izuku Midoriya. So, I'll ask again, a bit more directly. Can you control your power to that extent without blacking out? Izuku looked down at his hands. No. No, sir, I can't. Huh, I see. You show a lot of promise, kid, but I'd be lying if I said that wasn't disappointing. You went through most of this test with a hand tied behind your back. That better change, got it? Rather than speaking, Izuku searched his thoughts. If Aizawa wanted a show of strength, he could think of nothing better than the Hulk. Or rather, the next best thing. The Mark 44 Iron Man suit. The thing designed to take on the Hulk. The Hulk Buster. Izuku focused all of his energy into constructing the mech's arm around his own. He thanked whatever gods he could that his power didn't force the weight of the objects that he created onto him, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to lift his arm, let alone move it. He reeled his arm back, throwing as hard as he could. The force of his throw cracked the ground underneath him as he watched the ball soar through the air. He was exhausted, but he could still stand. That was better than nothing. 550 meters, Aizawa grinned. Not bad, kid. As he watched Izuku clench his fist with pride, he took note of something. Aizawa had seen Izuku reproduce the Incredible Hulk in the heat of battle, but when he had time to think, he settled on an imitation, a man-made imitation. I guess that's something to take note of, Aizawa admitted to himself. Though, as he called Melissa to the stand, he had to admit, that kid, Izuku, he had some kind of potential. Potential enough to survive this crazy world if he played his cards right. When Melissa stepped up, she cleared her head. Her scores had been okay so far. Nothing bad, nothing phenomenal. Capping herself at 5% was screwing her in the long haul, and she knew it. She couldn't keep up. Not if she wanted not to be last. She was up against Titans. Someone using Stark tech, The ice kid who was apparently the son of the #2 hero in Japan, the daughter of Jessica Jones and Luke freaking Cage? She wasn't standing out, and that needed to change. She wasn't about to let All Might down. She couldn't. So, gritting her teeth, she remembered what it was like to go at 100%, before Izuku had helped her control her powers. How powerful her blows felt, how she broke the very air around her, and she tried, with all her might, to condense that feeling to a finger, her ring finger to be exact. As it shattered, the ball went soaring through the air, and she smiled. 780 meters. It was enough. She knew it. The battle was hard-fought, but in the end, they made it. Not only were Izuku and Melissa not last, they had done pretty well for themselves, getting number 8 and number 12 respectively. Toph had dominated at number 5. They were happy. At least they would be if they didn't know what was happening to the person at the bottom. You've gotta be kidding me, right? Yoko Jiro dropped to the ground, her earphone jack quirk slacking down in anticipation of what she now knew was coming. My quirk, I tried so hard. But none of this was made for me. My quirk was useless. All that effort? Get up, Aizawa responded, as the eyes of the class locked onto the girl. Izuku narrowed his eyes with pity. This wasn't fair. No matter who you were, nobody deserved this. Toph just scoffed. This was, of course, stupid in her mind. Yeah, sure, a strong person could pass this class easily. But what about anyone else? Some of the greatest heroes in the world didn't do combat. It just seems so limited. But what else should she expect? Melissa saw someone just like her. Where she would be if she hadn't been chosen by All Might. Yet another person whose dream would be crushed at the hands of this uncaring society. What do you feel right now? Aizawa asked. What? You heard me. How do you feel? What's going through your head? I gave it my all. You did. That's the problem. Get back in line. Aizawa crossed his arms, taking the sleeping bag off of his head. Yoko's eyes widened as she opened her mouth to speak. Was she not expelled? Before she could get a single word in, though, she was shut up by a single cold word from Aizawa. Now. She silently walked back to her other classmates, stiffening in anticipation of what her teacher would do next. I wasn't lying when I said you'd be expelled. I just changed my mind, so don't consider yourself lucky. He looked at almost every one of his students' eyes, into their souls. Almost all of you have a fundamental problem, a problem very indicative of our society, and one that I'm gonna burn out by any means necessary. Your powers. The second I said you could use them, you relied on them. While you should use your abilities to their full potential, you use them exclusively, like they were a crutch. The class went silent before Ida raised his hand. But, sir, with all due respect, are we not here to learn to be proper heroes? How can we do that without learning to use our abilities effectively? Ida asked. True, but what good are your powers if they're the only thing worth a damn about you? Ida, you scored the best on almost everything involving long-distance speed, but when it came to strength or agility, you were helpless, worthless. You didn't even try to compensate. Ida stiffened at Aizawa's words. Jiro, the reason you came in last is because you clearly never focused on any ability beyond your earphone jacks. Bakugo, Todoroki, you faced every problem by trying to brute force it with your quirk, even tests like grip strength, where that clearly wasn't applicable. Bakugo gritted his teeth, as Shoto met Aizawa's eyes with a soft silence. Japan's hero society has taught you that the only thing that matters is your quirks. If you're born strong, with a big flashy power, you'll be untouchable. So let me ask you something. What happens when your quirks are useless? But how would that even be the case, sir? Ida asked. You want to try a foot race with the Flash, Ida? Aizawa asked, to Ida's wide eyes. Or what about you, Todoroki? Want to try your quirk against Iceman? Or Sero, I'm sure you'd love to try your luck against somebody like Spider-Man. What about you, Kaminari? You looking to try your might against somebody like Thor? The class watched Aizawa as he got closer to them, inch by inch, each word sinking into their minds, into their very bodies. Shoji, you think you're strong? Try the Hulk. Or put Yayorozu up against Firestorm, or Ayama against... What the hell's your point? Bakugo growled. My point, Bakugo, that someone like you stands no chance against someone like Superman. Aizawa responded. My point, is that Japan has the highest density of mutants born in the world outside of Genosha. 80% of people in this nation are born with superpowers, yet we're at the bottom in terms of power. Multiple places in the world, Kami, America, Wakanda, every one of them has produced heroes that render our powers worthless by sheer strength difference. Take our strongest heroes, All Might, Endeavor, Tatsumaki, the Terrible Tornado. Almost every American hero outclasses them. I mean, heck, you want to talk about All Might? He's the best hero all around, the symbol of peace himself, and he's nothing compared to half of America's #1 school, the Xavier Institute. In terms of power alone, these places pop out Omega-level mutants every other week. We're nothing compared to them. You want proof? Look across from you. The students did just that, searching the faces of each and every person next to them. Some, like Izuku and Melissa, saw his point before his next sentence. You know who the strongest people in your class are? The people with the best all-around powers? Laura Kinney and Danielle Cage. Both not Japanese. If any one of you were to try to go up against these two with power alone, you wouldn't stand a chance. Danielle glanced around the room nervously at Aizawa's words, filling the eyes of everyone, especially the daggered eyes of the blonde child digging into her skin. Laura looked at each and every one of them with hard eyes, meeting their looks with one of her own, one that radiated danger, that warned them to back the hell off. And that's not even the half of it. It would be one thing if they just happened to produce stronger mutants. You all know Iron Man, Green Arrow, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Falcon, War Machine. The rest of the world routinely produces heroes who aren't even mutants, who could take on some of our best heroes any day of the week and come out on top. Heck, there's even rumors that Batman, the Dark Knight himself, is quirkless. Oh, that's bullshit, Bakugo countered. You know what? Maybe it is, but it doesn't matter. Even without Batman, there's still Mr. Terrific, Black Canary, the Red Hood, and the villains. Oh my god. The powerless villains the world produces could bring this entire country to its knees. If you think I'm wrong, how many of you are willing to spend a day with the Joker? Aizawa hissed. Izuku gagged at the thought. Sure, he loved Batman. Batman was his hero. He was the hero. He was the person who made Izuku not ashamed of being quirkless anymore. But to spend a day in Gotham, if it meant the chance of running into him? Every news story about Batman facing off against the Clown Prince of Crime made Izuku blanch. Aizawa tugged at his scarf as he spoke, the frustration catching up with him. Consider some of the people at the top of your class. A quirkless person, and someone who could make just about anything. Neither one of their abilities are powerful and flashy, but they're useful, adaptable. I'm not saying any of you aren't great prospects, but that doesn't change the fact that we live in a world where people your age have already surpassed our best and brightest. So, no, I'm not going to expel you because your powers aren't good enough. But from this day forward, your powers are just one part of who you are, and that's it. If you want to be the best, then you need to learn how to push yourself forward in every way. Go beyond. He finished as he turned to walk away, leaving his students dazed and confused. Only Katsuki Bakugo wasn't. His fists were clenched as explosions burst through the cracks on his palms, as his eyes narrowed. Aizawa disappeared around the corner, leaning against a wall. He rubbed his tired eyes as he finally let himself blink for the first time in an hour. He felt the water in his eyes build up, practically forcing themselves out as tears. So, you were watching that, were you? You changed your mind. You never change your mind. The towering figure of All Might responded. Is that so? Aizawa responded. Considering that you expelled all of Class 1A last year, I'd say so. All Might said softly, as he watched Aizawa turn to face him. What made you change your mind? What did you see? Why, big guy? You got a horse in this race? Aizawa asked, making All Might stiffen. We're here to make the next generation of heroes. Not every student's gonna make it through this process. Best not get too attached. Aizawa said, beginning to walk away. You didn't answer my question. All Might responded, making Aizawa stop for a moment. Turning around, he responded. These ones seem smarter than the ones I've had in the past. If anyone around here is going to show this world what Japan's got, that we can break our limits, and be titans in our own right, I think it might be them. At least that's what I'm hoping. We'll see if they prove me wrong, he said, as he disappeared from All Might's sightline. Izuku, Melissa, and Toph walked side by side with each other out of UA nearly 10 minutes ago. In that time, none of them had really spoken, the full weight of what Aizawa had told them still surging in their heads. When they thought about it, he was right. Nobody understood the weight of that more than Melissa. I want you to be the bearer of my torch, to take my quirk as your own. Young Shield, you can be a hero. When Melissa heard those words, she dropped her welding torch, nearly burned her foot off, but she didn't care. She'd known she could be a hero. The world was full of heroes like her. But that didn't change the fact that it was scary. To enter into a world of gods and titans and monsters with nothing but a suit or a bow? Not to mention her prototypes where, well, they were crap. Her weapons overheated, her bombs nearly killed her on more than a few occasions. Her rocket boots were an experiment best left forgotten. To get power, to get All Might's power, it was a dream come true, but Aizawa was right. All Might in his prime wouldn't be a match for most of the best heroes in the world today. Not by a long shot. So, even if she put her all into mastering these powers, neither would she. The gift of these abilities didn't mean anything if she relied solely on them. Any pressure that had fallen off of her had now officially fallen back on. Hey, wait up! Those 3 words snapped Melissa out of her thoughts, as she, Izuku, and Toph spun around to see their fellow students trying to catch up with them. Oh, hey, Izuku said as he turned around to meet them, to Toph's clear annoyance. As the duo of students caught up to them, Izuku and Melissa were able to make out the blue hair of one of their pursuers, immediately putting together who it was. Oh, you're Ida, right? Izuku asked. The blue-haired boy in question stopped in front of Izuku with a smile on his face. Indeed. Melissa stared at the girl lagging behind him. She had already pseudo-met this girl a few times since the entrance exam, so when she saw her face, putting a name to it wasn't particularly difficult. And you're Ochako Uraraka, if I'm not mistaken. You're not... Oh boy, Ochako stuttered out as she caught her breath. She was clearly winded from trying to keep up with Ida, who had power-walked all the way there. As she took a deep breath, the color came back to her face. The next words out of her mouth were far more enthusiastic. And I know you guys too. Melissa Shield. She pointed to the center of Melissa's face as Melissa nodded. Toph Beifong. Toph, sensing that this moment was nowhere near from over, shrugged as she shook Melissa's hand. And you're Deku Midoriya, right? The second those words left Ochako's mouth, Toph fell on the floor in a fit of laughter. Izuku pinched the bridge of his nose in embarrassment. Is that not right? No, not exactly, Izuku admitted. It's Izuku. If the cheeks on Ochako's face could get any redder, they did at Izuku's words. Oh, shoot, that's right, you told me your name before the entrance exams. Oh, how could I forget? I mean, you practically saved my life. She sighed. It's just that I heard that blonde boy refer to you as Deku and... What, Blondie? He's an ass. Toph wiped a tear from her eye as she finished her laughter. Well, Toph might be a little blunt, but... Izuku began. She's not wrong, Melissa replied, Izuku staring at her. Izuku, you know it's true. I read the things he's put you through in your letters. He would have done more if you didn't fight back. I wasn't gonna put it that way, Izuku slumped his shoulders. Kachan made that name up a long time ago to make fun of me. It's supposed to mean someone who can't do anything. An insult? That is unacceptable behavior from a hero in training, Ida shouted. Oh my gosh, my bad, Ochako blurted out. I never would have called you that if I knew it was an insult, I promise. For the record, though, I still think it's kinda cool. It's a name that screams, I can do anything, you know? Izuku blushed slightly as he scratched his head. Well, you can call me Deku if you want, he responded quietly, to the surprise of Melissa. Not so much of Toph. So soon, but didn't you just say this was an insult? Ida asked, to Izuku's nonchalant shrug. That name stopped bothering me a while ago, Izuku admitted. Plus, it's not like I'm not used to that kind of thing. Izuku turned to Toph with a smile on his face. Things like that, they're not so bad when they come from a friendly face. Good attitude, crybaby. Toph smiled at him, ignoring the protest from Ida that she shouldn't refer to her friend like that. As her oldest friend, her newish friend, and the 2 annoying barflies gathered around her, she couldn't help but think, maybe this place was gonna be alright after all. Hey everyone, thanks so much for checking out another episode of Earth OCU, and for checking in again on the strongest Earth in the multiverse. As always, it is a genuine pleasure to be your captain, and I really enjoy having you guys around. If you guys want to see anything else that I made, feel free to check out my channel. If you guys want to see the earlier parts of this series, again, be sure to check out my channel or the playlist. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting that button. And if you like my content, then feel free to stick around and hit subscribe so you don't miss my stuff in the future. Until next time, I'm your captain, and it's a genuine pleasure to take you on another tour of the strongest Earth in the multiverse. I'll see you next time, guys.